Yeah, I got mine fired up over here.
Okay.
I have two people.
All right, I might fire mine up too.
Yeah.
Going a behind the scenes tour here. All right, Refrans, I'll kick it to you. Refrans, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Chris, you ready?
Yes, sir.
All right, Refrans, I'll kick it to you, and then you kick it to Chris, okay?
All right, cool.
Cool. And the gang. Ready, John? Edit here. Hello, and welcome to Techlandia. How are you doing today? I am John Samuelson in Beaverton, Oregon, home of I don't know, green stuff. I don't know. I can't call it right now. I haven't lived here long enough to call it. But where I used to live was in Texas, and I'm gonna kick it over to my good friend, and her name is
We're Franz. I am a Franz in Texas, of course, and future unemployed. I'm kidding.
future
um,
unemployed.
no, I'm actually not kidding about that. I wrote a blog about it. It's quite interesting. Sometimes you just wake up and want a job change. It was not like that at all. It was more or less, I want to be like Chris when he grows up. You might hear my family in the background of this. I really do apologize right now, even though I told them that I was recording, but that was yelling. I know. Anyway, I am so excited about tonight because I met Chris in Austin at Google Teacher Academy, and listening to him talk can be completely life changing. So I'm excited to have him here tonight. I've been dying for this, and I'm going to pass it on to Chris now.
Oh, thank you, Franz. I actually have my Google Austin T-shirt on.
Oh, nice.
Yes. But thank you, Franz. Thank you, John, for having me. My name is Chris Aviles from the beautiful Garden State, New Jersey. I live in Forked River, which is by the Jersey Shore. I was an English teacher for 9 years, and about 8 weeks ago, I started a new gig. My official title is Educational Systems Administrator, but really, besides managing Park and the Pearson Parent Portal, I'm also responsible for kind of doing the ed tech teacher professional development. I'm a Google certified teacher, education trainer, as one of the lead learners at Austin, Texas, where I met with Franz finally for the first time after a lovely and long online relationship. But I'm excited to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, we're happy to have you.
Thank you.
Refrans speaks so highly of you. I can't even. I have never heard Refrans speak as highly of you as she does, except for maybe Carl Lindgren Stryker.
Hmm.
Oh, so that's just a tough one. No, I know. See, Refrans. I was just kidding. See, that was my. We know. We all make fun of Carl Lindgren Stryker. So anyway, that's good. It's good to have you here, Chris. And so, what brought about the change in your job title then to Educational Systems
It
Administrator?
wasn't just a change in the title, it was a change in districts as well. An opportunity to kind of move and take some of the things I was doing in my classroom and kind of put it on a larger scale and roll it out to teachers, as well as get to use some of that ed tech passion that I have. So, I mean, it was really just an offer I couldn't refuse. So, the weirdest thing is, like I said, I was an English teacher for 9 years. I taught sophomores, but now I oversee kind of a K through 8 school district. So there's a big culture shock for me, getting used to the life of the little ones and how they operate. So I got my first hug on the leg from a kindergartner last week. It was cool. It's weird, man. You know, high schoolers versus the little guys. It's like two different worlds.
It is. It won't be the last hug either. You know what I'm saying? That right, Refranta, and the kindergartners will always be hugging as long as there are kindergartners. I feel.
Absolutely. Hey, Chris, I have a question for you.
Yes,
What
ma'am.
has been your biggest aha with this transition? Because I know myself and a lot of different teachers are now posting all over the place that they are making these big transitions either from a district or to from the public school to a private or to an ed tech company. So what has been your biggest transition from going from one job to the next? What did you learn the most in that change?
It's kind of funny. What I learned is maybe something I already knew, and that's just how important relationships are. I really tried to go above and beyond for the kids that I taught to make sure they knew how much I cared about them. And rolling into this new situation where I'm kind of a pseudo administrator, it's important that the teachers I work with know that I'm there to help them. I'm not there to maybe get them in trouble or anything like that. I'm there to make them better, there to make the district better. So I've really tried to go out of my way to build those relationships with the new teachers, especially coming in halfway through the school year. I really spend a lot of time, working and making sure they know that I'm there to advocate for them and help them out. And I think maybe the best thing I've done is I end pretty much every conversation I have with one of the, my new staff members is, what can I do to help you? What do you need? How can I help you out? And so I think that was a big transition for me.
That's interesting. So how large is the district that you're currently employed with, the one that you moved to?
So Fairhaven School District, which is about 45-minute commute for me.
Oh, wow.
It's a K-8 school district. I think we have about 1,000 kids in the entire district and a little bit over 100 staff members.
That's not bad. That's kind of a smaller district then.
Yeah,
anyway.
Yeah, no, it's definitely coming from the high school I taught at before this had 1,200 kids alone just in the high school. So it's definitely a smaller district, and we feed into a regional high school. So we don't even have a high school attached to our district. So it's just K-8.
Okay, that's interesting. And so, do they have any plans in your school district? Like I moved school districts this year too, and we're trying to slowly roll out some technology to people that they haven't really had access to before. Does your district have any plans to rolling out what is their vision, I guess?
So the vision we're kind of working with is we're 1-2 with Google Chromebooks. We're hoping to move 1-1 as time goes by, and we really want to I guess kind of nail down some best practices that we can do. I'm a big advocate for learning management systems in general, so I'd love to see every teacher on Google Classroom, if not, Schoology or something like that. There's a big push in my district for more STEAM programs, so that's a big part of what I'll be spending time on this summer, is rolling out, maybe some different programs, whether after school or during recess. Or maybe even as kind of an elective that we have. We have an elective system. But I think that's something they definitely want to move to as well. But overall, it's just continuing to integrate technology into the classroom to kind of get more out of our students and lead to better learning outcomes.
That's interesting.
Hey,
Go ahead, Franz.
we should really practice this timing thing instead of talking over each other. It's sort of my fault for not being. I haven't been on the show in so long. Yes.
You know what you do? Just don't act like we meant to do it. Then don't bring attention to it. Then just be like, oh, it's okay.
All part of the plan.
Right? Yeah, it's all part of the master plan. That's all it is.
Yeah, but it's a casual conversation right now, and in a casual conversation, I'm not going to fake it. Hey, Chris, really. So you're really known. I think what I know you a lot from is just when you talk a lot about gamification.
Yes.
And next month, we're going to see each other in New York at the Games for Learning Summit.
Yes.
So that's a completely different environment than what we know of as gamification where we are. So what do you hope to take away from that event?
So I'm excited. First of all, I always think I always feel the need to kind of define gamification versus game-based learning. Gamification is kind of taking all of those mechanics that make video games exciting and engaging and motivating and putting them in the classroom. This summit to me is kind of a game-based learning summit where we actually get to meet with, we're talking about the biggest of the big video game designers and kind of get to pick their brain and hopefully let them pick our brain about the power of game-based learning to maybe engage or change or teach a student. So the biggest thing for me, I would argue the last greatest games when it comes to game-based learning. I remember rushing through my schoolwork to get to Oregon Trail or to get to Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego. And I could still name a lot of the places along the Oregon Trail and some of the places I remember I had to sleuth out the bad guys on Carmen Sandiego. And since then, the games that are used in the classroom haven't gotten much better. I've noticed a lot of my teachers that I'm now working with in my district, especially the younger the grade level, the more kind of game-based apps they roll out for kids to learn on. And I really think that what I'm hoping to get out of this, Games for Learning Summit is really maybe a vision, or at least maybe add to a vision going forward. I mean, you take an example of course, now I'm going to, Assassin's Creed. So take, an example for Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed is so amazing in the tangential learning that it provides a kid, you know what I mean? So you're playing this game as this assassin, but there's so many things that you can learn about history, just while you play. So imagine if we made a game with those big game makers that really focused in on teaching, or kind of grabbing a student's attention. I think maybe the best example, or the best two examples I can give you, maybe I'll go with three. I'll give you my three best examples. So in Finland, I saw that a class is teaching morality and ethics using the Walking Dead video game, which is, if you've ever played it, is amazing. And some of the choices you have to make are so difficult, because sometimes the choices aren't going to have a happy ending. And so I think that's a fascinating way to talk about moral and ethics and decision making. And even to have these high school kids talking about that kind of stuff, I feel is important. Another one is, I can't remember the name of the college, but they actually play the video game StarCraft, and they look at StarCraft as kind of an analog for an actual war and types of strategies during battle. Or another one that I've seen recently is a lot of health classes are using a video game called Gone Home, which explores sex and sexuality in this kind of like really cool mystery type of game. And so I think there are some games that are being made by these big time companies or independent companies, when it comes to Gone Home, that I really think could be used to start a conversation. And so as much as I love gamification, I think there's definitely room to improve in the game-based learning department. So I'm hoping that the Games for Learning Summit is going to be as awesome as I hear it is. And I also hear there's this great lady who's going to be delivering a bit of a speech. Are you excited for that, Franz? You got the big call, huh?
I am excited and scared at the same time, but really, really excited. And I might talk about fangirling. I mean, I watched my son play Assassin's Creed, and I love that game. And to know that I'll be on that same area with the people that created that, oh my gosh. Now, I do want to say Assassin's Creed is pretty gory, and so I wouldn't necessarily say using that in a middle school classroom. But I think that the whole premise is getting some of those innovative game developers to develop for education and what that would look like. So I'm pretty excited for that event. I'm really, really excited knowing that you're going.
Yes, it's going to be awesome. But I also have to ask, what is more nerve-wracking, speaking at this summit or speaking at the White House? Because you've been doing it all lately.
I think probably speaking at this one, because the White House was last year. And so this is a whole new ball game, and it's game developers, and it's gaming, and it's NYU, and I've never been there, so I'm pretty stoked about it. John, what's going on?
Nothing. I'm just listening to you guys. I was surprised you haven't been to New York before. You haven't been to New York before?
I take that back. I went for Jose Wilson's book release. That was my one time in New York. I was only there for a few hours, and I was out before the clock could strike midnight. So this would be my first time there for a number of days, and going to something as big as this. I mean, in terms of gaming, there are a few big events. This one is huge because it's happening right ahead of Games for Change, and Games for Change is going to be attended by the people of Mission, U.S., who created the slave simulation game. So I can't wait to scour the streets of New York. Not to look for those people, but to really listen to kind of what they have to say. And I'm not going to the Games for Change Summit. We're only there for Games for Learning, but I am personally excited to hopefully grab a chance to have a little bit of face-to-face dialogue about that and not just with them, but about the gaming industry, period, about responsibility of gaming and learning and making sure that we're making things that are challenging for our kids, culturally cognizant for our kids, and engaging.
Absolutely.
That'll be interesting. Chris, I have a can I ask you a personal question? Because we just had something come up, and you might be the person to talk to.
Yeah,
I had a,
absolutely.
I had a colleague today that was they were doing they're going to finish out the year with a project and for high schoolers, and they wanted to create a game that was kind of like a choose your own adventure type of game, like and kind of build their own. I'm not sure that they have coding skills though,
Right.
and we were just wondering, are there any sites that you know or something that like somewhere you could point us where it might be a resource to use to if some students just kind of wanted to go there and that was part of their project is creating a game, their own
Oh,
game?
I'll tell you, I don't maybe know anything particularly, but I know uh, what
Is there
I've
a
been.
person that you know that like on Twitter that's like your go-to person for stuff like that?
I'm trying to think what would be the best resource to give me. I'm drawing you a blank.
Okay.
Uh,
If you think of it, let me know because
I could
I was
definitely
kind
I'll
of
think about it and look out to it.
okay because I told her GameStar Mechanic was about the only thing I could think of, but I thought for high schoolers that might be too
Right.
young down because I'm more of an elementary person. So
Um, Let me jump on a browser here.
Why,
I was
why
at
not
Ed.
Scratch?
I don't know. That might work. I'll take
Because you
any
can make
suggestions.
Scratch interactive.
Okay.
And we had a kid for our school media fair. I don't know if I guess I can say that since after Wednesday I'll no longer be employed by that school district. But one of them made a really cool um, game on the water cycle using Scratch. And yes, it may be kind of elementary, but a high school kid can throw in graphics that are applicable maybe for that junior high to high school kid, and they could easily use that.
Okay, that's good. Thanks. Yeah, because she just asked me, and I'm kind of like, I'm not really. I was kind of drawing a blank myself. So anyway, I don't want Chris. You don't have to research for. I was just asking off the top of
Yeah,
my
no
head.
worries.
I can hear you. Thanks for asking it though.
Well,
Thanks for looking
I
at it.
ran across, I was at Ed Camp, South Jersey Saturday. I ran across a wonderful lady whose name escapes me, but she was representing a company that basically does what you're doing, what you're asking for. And I think it was like Black Rocket Studios or something like that, or
Okay.
Black Rocket something. I want to double check because I don't want to, give you the wrong name or anything like that, but I'll definitely get back to you.
Okay,
Uh,
great.
yeah, no worries.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Okay, so now here's the big question, I guess, and this is what we want to talk about a little bit. So this is one I've been struggling with, and I just got back from the Q conference in Palm Springs. How do you have ideas to make professional development relevant in your new school district? And like, what are some of the ideas or some of the concept? Like, what's your vision for professional development to get your teachers kind of like jump started?
So like I mentioned before, I got a lot of mileage out of gamification in my classroom. And if gamification is meant to engage and motivate kids, I kind of have this theory that we can use it to engage and motivate teachers. And for me, one of the biggest, maybe, I don't want to say aha moments, but maybe one of my biggest motivators is that Gallup poll that came out in January that said something like 75% of teachers are like disengaged in teaching. And to follow that up is, like I said, I'm in New Jersey, and the poll also says that New Jersey basically is the second, the second state when it comes to like miserable teachers. And the funny thing is, Gallup ran the same poll like in 2013, and they found the exact same thing. And so for me, coming from the classroom, kind of taking on this position where instead of maybe engaging kids, I want to engage teachers. I'd really like to try to gamify professional development. Um, I have some crazy ideas for how it's going to work. And so right now I'm kind of just getting permission and laying the groundwork. And I could give you some examples. So I think for me, one of the most important things I could give back to teachers is their time, right? Teachers are so overloaded with mandates and grading and all this other stuff. How can we give back teachers their time? So I've kind of set out to maybe change the way that we do professional development, because the other issue I think is we just have sit and get fire and forget professional development. You learn it once and it's gone forever. And I really think that we can do better. I read something somewhere that says like a teacher needs to work and play with something for 12 hours before they really understand it. And so one of the things I imagine is having these achievements. When a teacher goes to, let's say, a staff meeting or professional development for the usual hour, and they get their certificate, you know what? They're going to get some achievement points, 10 achievement points. But then later, if they incorporate that, we'll say tech for now. If they incorporate that tech into their lesson plan, and it looks like it's going to be effective, for incorporating it, we're going to give them 25 achievement points. And if they were to invite me into their classroom and let me take a look and maybe coach them up and give some feedback, for being that brave, maybe they get 50 achievement points. And so this is the part. This next part is the part that a lot of people seem to be excited about, and a lot of people seem to be really hesitant about at the same time. So I was lucky enough to go to Google Teacher Academy in Atlanta. I was lucky enough to be a lead learner in Austin, Texas. And the time I've spent around the Google offices, I've kind of noticed that they do a great job of making their employees feel appreciated. And I think that's one of the big issues that we have with teaching, is that teachers don't feel appreciated. So when teachers maybe accumulate these achievement points, I want them to be able to cash it in ways that they're going to feel appreciated. So I imagine having this, teacher store, this item shop where, maybe one of the things that they could do is when they have a certain amount of achievement points, they could buy back their time. So if they want, I'll cover their cafeteria duty, I'll cover their hall duty, I'll cover their recess, because as a connected educator, I don't really need to be in my office. I've got my tablets, I've got my laptop, I don't have to sit in my office to work. So if I could give them back that hour of time, I think that's something that's really cool that I can do. On top of that, at Google they have doctors on site, and they'll take your car to the shop, and they'll deliver your mail and order flowers and all these crazy things for you. So all you have to do is focus on your work, right? So I'd like to try to do something like that too. So with the hour that the teacher has, this summer I plan on reaching out to nail salons. I plan on reaching out to auto body shops. I plan on reaching out to other places in the community and asking them if they would sponsor, kind of like this teacher appreciation program. So that way, when a teacher does, have that hour of time, maybe they could spend it grading, or they could go get a manicure in the teacher's office. They could go get a massage in the teacher's room. Somebody will come change their car oil while they're at school, or I'll go drop their mail off at the post office or something like that. I think if we can make teachers feel more appreciated, because obviously I can't take everything off their plate, but if maybe we can make teachers feel more appreciated, they would be more engaged in their job. And we know that engaged kids, engaged teachers do better work, and so that's something I'd like to try. I'm even tossing around the ideas with my leadership team. If a teacher is tenured and maybe accrues so many points, they don't have to do lesson plans anymore. We tenured them, we trust them. Maybe they don't have to do lesson plans, or maybe they have to do a lesser version of a lesson plan. And instead of spending those hours a week with your lesson plans, we could spend 20 minutes a week saying, oh, this teacher wants to work on this. Instead of lesson plans, we could spend some time kind of on what you want to focus on and kind of get that feedback loop going. So I mean, that's just kind of part of where I'm at too. I think I want to create a leaderboard and kind of, not only put teachers up as individuals, but maybe school versus school, or a grade versus grade as a way to motivate. If you see third grade has 500 AP points, and maybe that'll motivate second grade to kind of move up the leaderboard. And I think what else would be cool too is we have to recognize teachers as well a little bit better, I think. And so when a teacher, let's say, earns an achievement, has mastered Google Drive, has mastered the flipped classroom, one thing in gamification is things need to be public. No matter how shy somebody pretends to be, they love to, they love for other people to know the great things that they're doing. And the community loves to know, and I think even the kids want to know, that their teachers are continuing their education and learning is lifelong. So one thing I think I'm going to do is when a teacher has mastered or shown mastery in something, I'm going to take, an achievement or a badge or whatever the case may be, and I'm going to tape it right on their door. So that way when teachers and kids and parents walk down the hallway, they can see, all the skills and the work that their kid's teacher has been putting in. I'm even tossing around the idea of emailing the parents of the teacher. Say, I don't know if you know, but I want you to know that your teacher has done X, Y, and Z, and you're learning from one of the best that our district has to offer. Because I think any way that we can recognize and appreciate teachers is really valuable. And like I said, this Gallup poll that I read really it's shocking. I don't understand why those numbers that this Gallup poll is reporting is not crisis level numbers. And I really do feel like it's got a lot to do with appreciation. I remember reading something not too long ago. A lot of people say Finland is amazing, Finland's amazing, Finland's amazing, what a great school system. And in a way, that's true. But this article is talking about how teachers in Finland make less than teachers in America. Teachers in Finland have more kids in the classroom than teachers in America. Yet somehow they seem to produce better results. And so this article was kind of saying the reason why Finland is doing so well and the reason why Asian countries are doing so well has a lot to do with the esteem with which they hold their teachers. And I lived in China for a year, and I taught in China for a year, so I got to see firsthand. People would stop me in the streets, and they would thank me for teaching, and they would practice their English with me. And so this article went on to say that being, a teacher in Finland was the equivalent of being a lawyer, and being a teacher in China was the equivalent of being a doctor, and being a teacher in America was the equivalent of being a librarian. And so I think a lot of what we could do for teachers is also kind of change that culture. Because I remember even being young, even when the teacher was wrong, the teacher was still right. And I would go home and I would say, Dad, Mom, I don't think so-and-so likes me, or whatever the case may be. And I remember my dad would always say, well, you're probably doing something, so why don't you try, being normal, or something he would say, what I mean? But I really think that we can engage and motivate and appreciate our teachers better. I think the gamification that I've used could be effective. I think there's going to be some, growing pains. I think there's going to have to be buy-in. I ran this by some administrators that I know in other districts, and they brought up the fact, well, how are you going to deal with the teachers' unions? I think there's going to be a lot of hurdles for me to overcome, but I think this is a quest worth going on. I don't know. We'll see how it goes, but that's my plans right now and over the summer to kind of see if I could do something to kind of give back to the teachers in our district.
Not just that, but I hear you, and I love that I love you and your ideas with a vengeance. But you also know me, so I have to ask this question.
Yes.
What about the idea of publicizing a leaderboard? Not everybody is a fan of that. There are some teachers who will do it, but I'm just going to push back and ask, how is it motivating when you see someone with an excessive amount of points and then you have none? So how does that really help motivation when you're point-to-sizing, I made that word up, development? Does that really help? I think about myself, and I participate in several advocacy channels, whether I like it or not. Actually, I stopped participating because I can't stand the dang leaderboard. I don't have time to dedicate to tweeting 500 different things a day or something like that. So I'm not going to have a bunch of points. At the same time, it doesn't mean that I'm not growing and I'm not developing. So what other ways are you planning on measuring development? And what about the teachers who don't want their growth publicized?
No, and it's absolutely a fair criticism, and it's one I've heard and one I'm trying to figure out. When it comes to leaderboards, maybe just putting the teacher as an individual up there isn't the best. Maybe just doing it as school versus school, or maybe just a grade versus grade, or maybe foregoing the leaderboard altogether and just focusing on those teachers who want to take the initiative to, maybe invite me into class or whatever the case may be. No, you're right. And I think, too, when I talk about gamification, to make a long story short, I talk about the 4 types of people that there are, and one of them, was what I refer to as a gladiator, people who love competition. And so I think there are some teachers that will be competitive, and so maybe it's the leaderboards are an in addition, but maybe not the whole thing. Maybe it's not something that works out at all, but I don't think I'll know. I think until I'll try. You know what I mean? I mean, it's somebody brought up to me. It might not even something that ever gets past the unions and the administration. So I wouldn't doubt that at all either. Um, but I think the question that you asked at the end there is maybe the most important. Is how do we measure a teacher's growth, or how do we want teachers to grow? How do we push teachers, or encourage teachers, or engage teachers, or motivate teachers to grow? And I think that's the $1,000,000 question, because according to these polls, it's not really happening. And I mean, from personal experience, I've worked with a lot of teachers who are satisfied where they are. I've worked with a lot of teachers who are older and think that, what is what I've been doing. There's no reason to, kind of change anything. I remember even stories personally and seeing others. One of my favorites is when when I was a new teacher, came in asking for help. Teachers would basically barricade their Ditto filing cabinet because they didn't want to share and collaborate. So I think that's the $1,000,000 question. I'm not sure how familiar you guys with what's going on in New Jersey, but besides tying park scores to a teacher's effectiveness rating, they're also tying, what they call domain 4, which is a teacher's willingness to go above and beyond to continue to grow. So I mean, I don't know if that's the answer, but it's definitely the $1,000,000 question when it comes to teaching, I think.
I think if we went like this, Chris, if you would watch my kids as part of like your leaderboard, I would have you in my class every day. I'd be like, "Yep, another 50 points. Okay, Chris, I need a babysitter. Come on over and watch watch my own children, not the students, my own children." Right. I have way too many. But yeah, I think that would be a great motivator for me. I like what you're talking about, though. I think that's interesting. I mean, I think that's really good. Thinking outside the box a little bit, trying to get the teachers to. I love the. I've never heard. Okay, I'm from the Midwest. Sit and get, and then what was your other? What was it? Fire and forget.
Fire and forget.
Oh wow, that's awesome. Have you heard that one before, Franz? Have you heard that saying? Oh, she's got.
I haven't. No, I had to because my 1-year-old nephew just got here, and he's probably going to somehow walk his way onto the screen in a minute.
That's
so
okay.
Yes, I am muting in between.
Oh, okay. But have you heard that one? Sit and get, fire and forget.
No, I've heard sit and get. I haven't heard the other one. No idea. I mean, you just PowerPoint me to death, and I'm done.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times professional development's considered one person gets up, reads off the PowerPoint. You learn something one time, they fire it at you, and then you forget it. Or, I mean, I've been in the boat where I've walked into a classroom and all of a sudden there was a smart board bolted to my, wall, and nobody showed me how to use it or turn it on. But, luckily I've kind of always been a self-motivated kind of person, and, I think being a teacher is the most important job in the world. And so for me, I always try to do what's best for my kids, and a lot of that involves me refining my practices and getting better and changing my ways. And who I was when I first started teaching when I was 21 compared to now, I'm a completely different. Do you believe at one time I refused to let kids use cell phones? I would put the cell phones away. I would take the cell phones. And I look back, now going, what the heck? I could have, man, was that a terrible decision once I learned the learning tool that it could be. So. And I would have never thought about the cell phone as a learning tool if I hadn't been connected and seen others and gone to, more fulfilling professional development like the ed camps and the unconferences. And so I don't know. I think it's one of those cases of you don't know what you don't know. And so this whole gamification thing could blow up in my face, but I think at least if we try and look at different things from different angles, I think I'm okay with that. I have no problem failing as long as I'm failing in a forwardly direction. But yeah.
No, I think that's good. I think that's a great attitude to have too. It's like, hey, at least you're going to give it a shot and give it a try. If the other ways aren't working, then right, give it a shot and Who knows? The unions might push back, or maybe they'll you're just saying, hey, I'm just trying to help out, and I'm just trying to make teachers feel appreciated. And if you tell them your motivations behind it, maybe they let it go, and they're like,
Yeah,
okay, well, why don't you
absolutely.
give it a try?
Well, I'm gonna push you to do this before you do, because we all have these big grand plans for professional development, and we do that. So before you do anything, and I think that kind of applies to anyone in a position of giving professional development, you have to reach out and see what is it that might help or engage or motivate the teachers or the audience that you work with. No different than we would in a classroom. I mean, they may have some other ideas as well, and that may tell you that they want to participate in something like that, or they might have other ideas. They might have something else. It might not be going to get their nails done or going to get their car oil changed in their car, something like that. It might be something else entirely. So reaching out to the teachers you work with I think is really, really critical. And Chris, when you put all this big grand plan into place, document it, and then share the reflections, share the feedback from your teachers. Like I would like to hear from the teachers who gave you pushback and the teachers who didn't. I think you have two separate issues you're dealing with. You have two different types of evaluation happening that I can see that list being done or taken in the wrong way. So you have to consider that too, and where that would play out. And I look forward to following it. And more so because I know that you are open to the discussion and feedback, and you're not just so set in your ways. And I think I appreciate that.
Absolutely, no, and I appreciate the feedback, and it's definitely on my roadmap. It was funny. I was talking about this at Ed Camp on Saturday, and one of the teachers there said, "You know what I would love to do? The ability to get things for my kids. So maybe it's not getting the nails done or getting the oil changed, but one of the teachers said, I would spend my points on buying things for kids in my class that I need." And I thought that was really thoughtful too, because I can see a lot of teachers saying, you know, that's what I want is to give to my kids, because so many teachers are kind of that altruistic givers types of people. But no, it's definitely valid criticism, and I will definitely share one way or the other, pass or fail, good and bad, because I think, if somebody else wants to walk down the same road or learn from where I've been, I think it's valuable to share that kind of stuff.
I was going to ask Rafranz real quick. Rafranz, what do you think is the best way to go about getting the information from the teachers? Do you think it's just face-to-face conversations? Is it a Google form? What do you think is that's one of the problems that I'm having, is like getting the message out, or getting that mass thing. Do you think it's just face-to-face, or I'm interested in how you would go about getting that information?
Me too,
No,
because
in our district, we use Bright Bites data for a kind of the big picture, but then when you looked at the micro points that are built within the data, you can also see where your teachers want it. Like, we found that our teachers weren't coming to professional development because they wanted to know more multimedia type classes versus other things that were being taught. And the large amount of things that were being taught were not the classes that they actually wanted to go to. And then we weren't offering enough flexibility. So having that additional flexibility, I think, also helped teachers to kind of want to learn and grow too. I think that face-to-face conversations are huge. I think having ed camp type style things in your staff developments or meetings are also critical and important. You listening to feedback from the teachers in those moments, I think, are critical too. But for a district-wide stance, we starting with that Bright Bites data was huge. We needed to know that, and Bright Bites gave us that information.
That's interesting. Is Bright Bites the one that Kristen Swanson works for? Is that what
Yeah,
is that,
and
is
I
that
love Bright Bites. I love the fact that I love the kind of the feedback you get in between the questions. And I'll be honest, I was just, hold on, my family is just talking. I'll be honest, I was kind of very skeptical of the Bright Bites or whatever at first. I'm like snapping at them, and they're like telling me, looking at me like I'm crazy. I was very skeptical, can't even say the dang word. I was a skeptic at first, until we got into the data and started breaking it down, and then I was like, oh wow, this is good. The infographic that you get a part of it were good too. But I'll be honest, The data didn't tell me anything that we didn't already know. You can tell what teachers want to do versus we offered like gazillion sessions and nobody was showing up to. So I mean, if they're not coming to the million Google sessions you're offering, they want something else. They wanted things that were more engaging and about real learning outcomes and not just a Google Docs or a Google Sheet session. They wanted to know, how do I get my kids communicating? How do I get them creating? How do I get my kids to publish? How do I connect with the world? They wanted kind of really big picture ideas like that. And so I think that was, you have to listen to even the things teachers say and the things they don't say. The things they don't say will tell you more than anything.
I think that's good. That's good. All right, well, that's interesting. So if people do want to find out, I don't know a lot about Bright Baits. I just know that Kristen Swanson is one of their people. So I guess you could connect with Kristen Swanson, who is at Kristen Swanson on Twitter, and also, coincidentally enough, one of the founders of the EdCamp movement, which we were talking about so strongly. So Kristen's a great person. I love Kristen.
I'm going to also encourage you to look at the professional learning resources that the Office of EdTech offers. And I'm not just saying that because I've done a few Google Hangouts and spoke at the White House. I'm honestly saying it because it's really great stuff out there that they've offered on personalized learning, on different strategies that you can use for professional development. And then there's some really great school examples. I think it might be on the Future Ready website. I'm not sure. There's some really great examples of different things you can do for professional learning.
If you would like any information on that, you can contact Arnie Duncan, and be sure to mention that you like basketball. He is at Arnie Duncan on Twitter. Give him a basketball compliment, and he will point you in the direction of the Office of EdTech Materials.
You seriously? I'm going to tweet it. You stop that.
Hey, I was just going to say, no, that's good. The Future, I actually think the Future Ready site's pretty good looking.
It is nice.
I think it's a nice looking site. I was impressed. I was ready to just like tear it down, and I looked at it and I thought it was good. I like that stuff. Chris, before you go, I would like to know. So, since you are a man about the Googles, what are some of the what are your personal go-to extensions or add-ons or something? So I just want to know what are some of the things that have caught your attention? We were talking a little Periscope earlier. Yeah. And I know we could talk. I just did a podcast about Periscope and Meerkat yesterday. So.
Gotcha. So for me, I'm a big fan of apps and add-ons and extensions that fundamentally change the way I do business. And so one of them that comes to mind immediately is Kaizena. Kaizena is an add-on for docs and for slides that allows you to leave voice feedback for students. And I mean, it makes a huge difference when a kid can hear the positivity in your voice. When a kid sees the red ink on a paper, they just have their heart broken, and they don't even bother to read the feedback. And if you give it back at the beginning of the period, they shut down for the whole period. Kaizena for me made a huge difference when I got to, when I got used to it, and I actually wound up being faster than I ever was with a pen. And so not only were my students able to hear the positivity in my voice and really understand that I wanted them to be successful, one of the unintended consequences, which was really cool, is when a parent wanted to know how a kid did on their paper, they had to go back and listen to the voice comments. So not only did it improve the relationship with my students, it actually improved relationships with my parents. Kids go home sometimes and Mr. Aviles is a jerk, he gave me a bad grade, he hates me. Well, and then the parent plays the feedback and, well, he doesn't sound so bad because, you start off positive and get some criticism, you end positive, and next thing you know, parents and kids kind of get that. And kind of as a companion to that, there's a very cool feature. So for a long time I used revision history to check and see, how a kid had been working on an essay. There's a very cool app I think people need to know more about. It's called Draftback, and it will basically reverse the order of revision history, so you can watch an essay basically be written in live time by your student. And so, kids who are really, yeah, it's really cool. So I would sit down with my kids and we would play back the draft back of their essay, and we would watch them type, whether in real time or sped up time, and we could see, where they backspaced and where they paused and where they struggled, and we could have a conversation about, not just the product, the final product, but also the writing process, which we preach so much when we teach English, because I think that's something that gets lost. Kids drop essays, whether it's in classroom or Dropbox or physical paper on your desk, and all you see is the product. And using draftback, you kind of get a little taste of the process, and then you can leave that very quick, valuable feedback using Kaizen. So that's a nice little 1-2 punch that I used in my English classroom all the time.
That's good. I mean, that's like the 1-2 punch of English teacher, high school English teachers everywhere, and I think they've really improved Kaizen a lot lately. It seems like they since I first started, I was surprised to see
It's awesome. Probably the best thing they've done is they kind of refined the add-on and made it a lot easier to use. But the best part is the time it takes to, I guess, render the audio feedback is less than 5 seconds now. So I hit the record button, I leave my feedback. About 5 seconds later, it's delivered to the kid who, also has Kaizen installed. And it's also two-way. A lot of my kids realize that they can send back feedback on my feedback, because it's not just one-way feedback. It's kind of a two-way open channel.
That's nice.
Yeah, so it's really cool. So I would get little notifications when I would leave a feedback, and I'd go and I'd see kids had highlighted over my feedback and left their own feedback on my feedback. And so it was a cool little way to open that dialogue with students about the writing process, and realize criticism isn't necessarily negative. It's a way for them to grow. And so yeah, that was a nice little combination that I used in my classroom. And it doesn't have to just be for English. Kaizen and Draftback. Well, Draftback works on docs, but Kaizen works on docs and slides. I actually would love to try it now, especially since a lot of my teachers are on Classroom. I'm curious to see whether or not I can use Gubrick through Classroom with Kaizen. That would be cool. So instead of leaving, kind of mark out the Gubrick, but also leave the voice comment on top of the Gubrick as well.
Ooh,
but
okay.
yeah, I haven't had the opportunity to see if I could smash that together, but that's definitely something that's on my list of things I want to try now that Park is over in my district.
Nice. Park life is over.
Oh,
Hey,
yeah.
I was gonna ask Refrans real quick. So Refrans, is everything okay with the job situation? You're all good, and you're gonna move forward, and it's all good, right? This is all your choice.
Oh yeah, no,
This
this
is all
was
you, right?
okay. This is all me. This was so I was working with a team of people, and our plan was to start a school and to start some other things, but the other things for me seem to kind of have taken over a lot of the educational plans, and I'm really not feeling that. I am all about education and really serving kids and serving a community. So we're in the rewriting phase, and I think that that's a positive thing to do. At the same time, there's some other opportunities that are kind of that I really want to tackle, especially with getting to go to work with teachers across the country, and I love the idea of doing that. So yeah, this was all me. This was I decided that that I wanted to do more, and it became, if I didn't make this choice to do it now, I would never do it. And so making the choice now was the right one for me, and so far it's been good.
That's good. Well, my hat's off to you, Refrans, for taking the move. So it takes guts. It takes a lot of guts. So good for you.
Yeah, it takes guts, all right, and that's the hard part is when you start to kind of realize all of the things that you give up. But then when you think about it, for me, it was, if I stayed, it was because of I was more comfortable staying, or do I go and charter these waters that are really opening up, and I want to help more people.
That's great. Well, you know what I want you have an assignment though. Can I task you with an assignment? You need to find more great guests like Chris that we can have on the show. Can you do that for
I
me?
have plenty.
Okay.
I have a list. I have plenty.
All right, that's good. Chris, it was a pleasure meeting you. I really enjoyed talking to you, and I really think that we have something here. In maybe a few months down the road, after you've tried some of this stuff out, we'd like to have you back on and just tell us how you went and like reflect on it, because I think it's an important piece, and I think a lot of people that maybe listen to the show, all four of them, maybe they're tech coaches and they would like to see how it went.
Absolutely. I would. I'd love to be back, and I appreciate you guys having me. I had a
All
great
right.
time.
Well, thanks very much for staying up so late too, because we know it's late on the East Coast.
No
And
worries.
all right, Rafran, do you have any last words?
Thank you. Say,
I see
say
someone
hi,
with you.
sire. This is my nephew. Say bye.
Aww,
Oh, look at that guy.
so cute. All right, we'll catch you on the flip side.